Diego Cordovez.
Adam Schoenfeld.
The Scoop, brought to you by Full Tilt Poker. And we had Billy Baxter on last week. We're going to have Billy Baxter on next week. And
We'll have Billy Baxter on until I say we don't.
But if you saw part 1, then you know why you need to watch part 2. If not, trust me, look for part 1 on Card Player TV. And
here's more.
And then, of course, I began to have problems. The FBI broke the doors down, and I got indicted, and I wound up with a felony conviction for bookmaking. And then about 2 or 3 years later, I got a wild hair to doing the Masters golf tournament. I'm going to open back up just for the week of the Masters.
Right. No one's going to mind.
And a guy from Atlanta that the police didn't like too much up there approached me and said, well, you know, if I come in with you, I'll bring all the people from Atlanta over there and all. I'll stand good for all the credit for like 25%. So anyway, so I said, okay, that's good enough for me. So he was passing out maps all over Atlanta how to get to this, unbeknownst to me. And the GBI is what it's called. It's the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. Right. So they like basically followed him over to Atlanta. And like the third night of the tournament, boom, here the doors come down.
They even had a flyer with the directions.
Yeah. They had the directions how to get there, everything. So now I'm in trouble again. So then me and my wife, we got married that year. And I had a case pending back there for a year and all. So we decided, I said, you know what? I might as well go. I said, I don't know if I'm good enough to play with people that live in Las Vegas and all. I had no idea where I stood as far as that stood, but I knew I was doing really well. So anyway, I said, so we moved to Las Vegas. We went to Hawaii on our honeymoon. We came back through Vegas. We stopped at the Dunes, which is the old, which is the Bellagio.
Where the Bellagio is, right.
And it had 2 of the greatest that ever lived, Sid Wyman and Major Riddle.
Right, who owned the casino.
Right. They were the owners. And because they were owners, they fancied themselves to be gamblers.
Right.
So I got the deuce to 7. Now, when I came out here, I still was fringe bookmaking and all, but I decided that, so I started playing poker a lot, and it was so good, I just literally got out of that business.
Right.
And was playing poker and all, and but after I was here a year, I had to go back for those cases to answer the case, and I got a year. But the federal let me run the federal cases concurrent with that state case, so I got to do it all in 1 year in my hometown, in a state place. So it was pretty easy.
So you served a year in prison in state prison.
And now people, just sorry to interrupt, but people always talk about these prop bets, and Las Vegas poker players love doing the prop bets. You had a prop bet going when you went to prison.
I was going into that. I'm glad you asked. Doyle and Jack Binion, I weighed 205 at the time. And I bet them, or they bet me, I wouldn't get down to 165. So I really worked at it. I actually was in the best shape I ever got in my life coming out of prison there, because like they had a prison yard there, they had the weights out there and where you could run. I was actually running and lifting weight. Now, I wasn't trying to build muscle.
You had no distractions.
I was just working at it. And to make a long story short, when I got out, we got on the plane. The day we got out, we flew into Vegas. I went to the Horseshoe, got on the meat scale. They have a scale down there where they weighed the meat when they bought it for the hotel. And they got on, it was like a fight. Bill Baxter weighed in at 162.
Right.
So I won $10,000 on that.
So you got like a severance payment for your...
Yeah. You actually made a decent living while you were in prison. That's tough though. Like, I mean, I think, it was in your hometown, as you say. So, but going to prison's scary, isn't it?
Actually, when I went in the main prison. The first day was the scariest day.
Right.
The first thing they do is try to degrade you a little bit. Mm-hmm. They shave your head, and now when they shower, you all go in there and you shower. And now you're like locked down. You're in a maximum security prison. But I wasn't supposed to have to be there, I was told by my attorney. But meanwhile, I was first day. The next day, I got moved to what they call the honor barracks, which were some of the worst prisoners as far as what they were in there for, murder, everything.
Because they were the long-term
But
guys.
they had been there the longest, and they had earned their way into this honor barracks. Now, the honor barracks was this long building, like an army barracks, and it had a barbed wire fence and all, where we could get out and run and this and that. If you were in that lockdown over in the other building.
Right.
They went out on, this was like a chain gang. So the first thing I had found out, there was a guy in our barracks, his name was Herbert Lee, and he wanted to be the inmate chaplain. And they all get religion. See, I found that out. All of them get religion. That helps them. They want to get out.
Yeah.
Right.
So anyway, in talking with him, he said, "Boy, if I could get now the houseman's job was to mop the barracks whenever all the prisoners went out to work the next morning. Most all of them went on the buses to the chain gang and all, so to speak. But you mopped the floor, cleaned the bathrooms, and at night when everybody came in, you took a little orders like they wanted crackers or whatever. And his job was to go to the main prison. Nobody else could go, you know.
Right.
You buy from the
Right.
commissary, bring it back and give it out, and then that was your day. That was your job. It was just a little work in the morning, mopping the floors and that sort of thing. But anyway, so I said, boy, if I could get that job, I could lose this weight. I can't do it down there, eating all these starches and everything
Right.
down there. So I went and talked to the warden, and I said, you know, Herbert Lee wants to be the inmate chaplain. And I says, I believe if I could get that job over there, I said, I've got a bet that I bet I can lose some weight. I just told him the truth. So anyway, to make a long story short, the next day they called me up from the parts department. They said Herbert Lee had been made the inmate chaplain, and so I had his job.
Right.
So that's what helped me to lose all this weight and all. But that's how I won that bet.
And it gave you a goal. I mean, I think. If
Yeah,
you're
it
doing
really
time
was. It
and
was
you're
more
used
of
to
the principle of the thing than I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't a big bet. So, but it was something to pass the day every day.
Yeah, something to focus
Yeah,
on.
I'll tell you one thing. It isn't too easy to when you get down to the 160s. Those pounds.
Every
don't just,
pound's hard.
those
to
They
last
don't
lose.
just
ones.
come pouring off.
Those last
Right.
ones.
Because I remember I was 35 years old then.
Right, and then you head back to Las Vegas. But one thing that's always interested me is the fact that you've won 7 bracelets, and they've all been in low ball
Right.
type games. Most of them in No Limit Deuce to 7, which is
Right.
a very prestigious event, but also in Ace to 5 and Raz and other stuff. So did you just show up in Las Vegas way ahead of everyone else in Deuce to 7 for some reason?
Do you know
or
what? I'll tell you
was
the
it?
honest truth. I got most of my training, believe it or not, even after I got here. Now, I had a little bit down there,
Right.
but we played at limit when I first got here. And I got Major and Sid to really like in that game.
Right.
Actually, this story has a lot to do with my poker career. I look back on it, it was a mistake as far as if you wanted to be somewhere in the poker world, which I never really played poker for notoriety. I always played for money. That was my job.
Right.
That's the only way I have. And back when these bracelets were being given out, we didn't think nothing about it.
There was no money in notoriety.
I didn't
then.
have to,
Right.
I didn't play half the events because it just was counterproductive for me. I could be over here in a cash game
Right.
making some
Right,
money.
with
You could
Major
be-
Little
you
and
could
Sid
be-
Wyman.
You could be
Right.
running a casino instead
Right.
of...
Right. So what happened was I got everybody playing Deuce to 7. Major loved it, so that was the key thing. And then we played some No Limit around there a little bit too, and all, which I'll get into that. But that kind of became a game. I don't know, something about it. I just snapped with it, clicked in for me, and I seemed to have a knack for it. But one of the things that
to
I
say the
did,
least.
Yeah.
the games were so good
Right.
that I actually boycotted Hold'em. In other words, like Dole and all of them. You know,
That's great.
it was like, I wouldn't play. I wouldn't even play the tournament if somebody staked me or something because I didn't want to get Hold'em started because I'm playing low ball. I'm winning this money all the time.
You're trying to kill low
So
ball.
like
To kill Hold'em.
Hold'em was like a nothing. We never played Hold'em
But you saw Hold'em as a threat to low ball.
to low
Yeah.
ball.
Yeah.
In other words, to my living.
Right.
So I wouldn't play. I never played the World Series. I think it was around '96. One year when Stewie won it one year, I finished I think 26 or something. That was my first trip into the
Right.
World
That was
Series.
97. He was-
Something like that.
I understand the fact that obviously you had a huge edge over Major Riddle and Sid Wyman, but Doyle
Well,
and
Doyle,
and other
Chip,
guys
Bobby
were around.
Baldwin, they all.
They
There
were
was a guy in
around.
the incident. A lot of people don't know it. One of the toughest players that ever lived. He's in the Hall of Fame. Was Fred Ferris. He
Sarge
was
Ferris.
he was a bulldog.
Right.
With,
So they were all around, yet you won the Deuce to 7 every year. So
well, we had
something's going on.
We had the players weren't that many, but they were the best players. I'll put it that way.
Right. But you were
Chip,
dominating
Doyle,
in the deuce to seven.
Sarge, all of them. They I never won a tournament of any of those tournaments in the deuce to seven that they didn't play in. We all played it.
Right.
It was 10,000 in the 70s.
That was a lot of money.
And it was no rebuys.
Right.
It was no rebuys either.
But that's what I'm saying, that you were ahead of all those guys.
Right.
Well, you know
Great
what? I
poker
tell you
players as
something.
they are.
Doyle is a great player. He still is. I just had a knack for low ball, and at that time, I hate to say it, but I look back on it. When you're young and I was making money, I had a little advantage at that time. I was like probably doing as well or better than anybody. And when you got money behind you and you had the balls to go with it, it just came easy to me. I don't know what it was, because I look around now, you know, like I haven't really been winning this game in recent years, or doing that well, even for that matter. But yet I played all summer for the first time. I've really played a lot of it the last year. And I hate to say it, but I ran over the game over there. I mean, I must have won 400 or 500 in
In
about
LA.
2 or 3 months over there.
Yeah.
Playing in LA every day.
And we're not stopping. And on top of that, the game we had, but going back to our game, probably one of the biggest games, if not the biggest game ever, was, with the exception of the Andy Beal game, was this game back in the 70s. We
Yeah.
were playing 500 ante, 1,002 blinds, no limit. We had Major Riddle, Sid Wyman, and then we got the third wild card came in, Jimmy Shawgrow,
Right.
who
Famous
was the
drug dealer.
biggest drug dealer in the world. He had planes, they flew under the radar and everything. But we didn't know exactly what he did. We just knew he had lots of money,
Right.
and he couldn't play.
Yeah, you didn't need to know what he did.
And you didn't ask what he did.
Yeah.
So the games were just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And so that was really the reason I wasn't going to do anything to jeopardize
So
that game.
you had a combination of, you had some crazy action guys in the game that you
Right.
could beat,
Right.
but also you're banging heads with great players, and maybe you're a little better, or maybe they're a little better, but you could.
We were all
you
pretty
developed
close.
a game
The
against
rest
the
of
good
us, I
guys.
don't say that I was a lot better than them. I mean, I had good results
Right.
in the game. But, I mean, they were all good players. I mean, Doyle, Chip, Sarge was a great
Right.
player.
You know, you mentioned that the size of the game. That was in the late '70s when the economy was as bad as it is now. And
I
you
think
guys were
that's
playing
bigger
for-
than 4 and 8.
Yeah, that's huge.
Oh, absolutely.
And those games were unbelievable. And Bobby Baldwin, I remember that night. Bobby won like 365. I won 400,000 or 500,000 that night. We're talking about in the
In
70s.
one night.
In a
one
night,
night.
right.
That's, the thing,
That's
it
out
was-
of one game.
That's why it's so much bigger than the 4-8, because of the no limit aspect of it. You can win the whole.
But they were
casino.
big. I mean,
That's
it was,
amazing.
It was a really big game.
Thanks for joining us on The Scoop, brought to you by Full Tilt Poker. And this is a lot of fun with Billy Baxter. Join us next week.
More.
We're going to bring him back for part 3.